I adore Haikyuu's story for a multitude of reasons. Its entire cast of characters have unlimited depth and development. The plotlines connect and tighten over the course of the story. Every match fulfills an arc perfectly, and the story's themes are wide and resonate deeply. On the outset, high school volleyball seems to be the great limiter for the depth and structuring of a serialized story. But Furodate manages to ensure each step up the ladder feels fresh and meaningful. One of the various ways Haikyuu accomplishes this stems from the way Furodate embeds thematic concepts into the story. He does this by playing around with the reader's internal bias. Furodate loves to uproot our expectations while making us confront why we assumed the story would go in any particular direction. He does this masterfully throughout the story, from the end of Season 1 to the ball boy arc in Season 4, with my favorite example coming from the Kamomedai match. Furodate frames the Kamomedai match as the battle between tiny giants, Hinata and Hoshiumi. So far at Nationals, Karasuno beat their reflection in Inarizaki and greatest rival in Nekuma, and now confront Hinata's own style of play. Will he win and cement himself as the tiny giant, or lose and embrace a different title? As readers, we come into this match hoping Hinata will take the mantle as Karasuno's ace, proving his status as the greatest short player in Japanese high school volleyball. But as the match progresses, we see the stark contrast in the way he and Hoshiumi play. Hoshiumi's polished attacks and receives allow him to tool any block, a player who has a magnetic impulse to fill in the gaps when needed. Hinata puts pressure on blockers with the various tempos he and Kageyama mix into the team's wider attacking patterns. During the duration of this concept, we start to understand that both Hinata and Hoshiumi have carved out different but equally valuable playstyles. In other words, Hinata and Hoshiumi are not limited to one way of being great. That sentiment is one of the strongest in all of Haikyuu, a quote I return to time and again. At first, I made a short topic on it, but that didn't feel like enough depth for how brilliant of a concept this is for Haikyuu's story. This quote isn't just a part of Hinata's development, but it recontextualizes the series and how us as readers have been approaching it. In fact, I would argue this lesson nears the top for most important in Haikyuu, and one that applies to everyone, not just our tiny giants. Expectations define life. Whether it relates to our careers, relationships, or entertainment, our expectations set parameters for our potential to enjoy. Many of our most painful moments stem from misaligned expectations. For example, when your favorite sports team loses when they were favored to win. Expectations influence art even more. When I open a manga or step into a movie theater, I start out with an understanding of where things should go. When I come across a truly unique story, I often fail to give it proper appreciation because I judge the piece on what I thought it should do instead of what it actually did. This puts artists in a weird space where they always retread familiar waters while trying to give us splashes of something different. Expectation like this can be a source of anxiety and pressure for individuals. When you put high expectations on yourself, or peers and mentors do it for you, all of a sudden the endless possibilities your life could go become narrowed into a singular path they force you to follow. Hinata's existence on the volleyball court is a defiance of expectation. Short players are told to be liberos or don't step on the court. Hinata's limitation of height creates a concrete expectation about his capabilities. Furodate's mission with Haikyuu is to challenge that expectation and bring to life a playstyle unique to the individual. For no matter who you are, you're not limited to one way of being great. Close your eyes and imagine what a great outside hitter looks like. How do they score? What kind of technique and physique do they have? We all likely think of a player that looks something close to Ushijima. This assumption narrows our idea of success. I imagine all of us have goals in life that fit outside our assumed potential, and that is what makes this theme resonate so much. This bias forces us to assume Hinata will one day have to score like a typical ace, and that he alone will break the mold for how short players can earn a spot on the court. Hoshiumi's brilliance challenges that bias. Hoshiumi and Hinata reveal the depth of volleyball, each bend the game to their will, and in doing so transforms how we understand the sport. Readers come to understand this during the match, seeing how it was never a contest that would prove who is greater, because they both excel in extremely different areas. Then we can take that lesson and see how it has been manifesting in other characters without readers realizing it. Take Oikawa. Oikawa fits into our understanding of what a setter should look like. He has good physical traits and a strong work ethic. However, he lacks the top-tier raw talent of a Kageyama and Atsumu. So, how does he separate himself from others? Oikawa's observation skills allow him to become one of the best setters in the world. We see this in his first proper match against Karasuno, when he clues into Kageyama's signals after a night of film, and in their second meeting when he put himself in a position to receive Hinata's final hit. Oikawa reaches above his presumed talent level by fully embracing his intuition and ability to gel with teammates. If he had forced himself to play the same as those with more natural talent than him, then he would have never found success in Argentina. Now compare this to Nekoma and Kenma. Nekoma's defensive-minded system requires stamina from the players, yet their setter lacks athleticism. For Kenma, taking a single step requires monumental effort. So how could a player like that ever see the court in a system that plays to outlast their opponents? Kenma may lack athletic skills, but his prowess when it comes to strategy has no rival. Kenma's ability to make in-game adjustments outweigh the deficiencies in his athleticism. Kenma found his own path to helping his team, but it wasn't seen right away. As a freshman, his upperclassmen saw little value in him, as they saw his potential through a limited scope of what a setter should look like. Kuro and Nekomata understood how Kenma could leave a positive impact, and so he became a force for them in his second year. Setters don't have to fit into one style. They have a freedom to impact the game in different ways. Maybe it's empowering your star player as much as possible, or making everyone feel like they have greater talent than they actually do. Their approaches to the game vary widely depending on their unique attributes. For setters, it takes no work for readers to see the value in different styles and approaches, even unorthodox ones. So why don't we give the same freedom to other player archetypes? This theme applies to even the most average of player. Tanaka plays with the label of Mr. Hustle from the crowd. They see him as the try-hard, high-energy guy that every team needs but can't solely rely on to win games. Throughout the series, it seems he will never rise far beyond that role. He scores a lot of points, but that happens because Hinata, Asahi, and Suki clear an easier path for him. In the Inarizaki match, Frodate gives us the Mr. Average speech, and Tanaka pulls off a Bokudo-like cross shot. In that match, Tanaka proved he could be more than the label of a high-energy player by showing off immense technical ability and proving crucial for Karasuno's ability to win that match. Tanaka will never stop bringing energy to his matches, but that doesn't mean he can't improve his technique above his perceived talent level. Bokudo's style of play has similarities with Tanaka, but he interacts with the concept very differently. Bokudo has a greater level of play, and his limitation stems from his mental focus, his inability to stay locked in for the duration of a match. Bokudo's showy presence also contrasts how we expect an ace to act, but he is able to overcome this without sacrificing the ineffable quality that makes Bokudo Bokudo. He leans into his odd logic, and in doing so finds a hyper-consistency to his play that manifests in various ways, like an off-the-chest receive or backhanded spike, but it allows him to fully embrace his way of playing. Kageyama fits into this conversation as well. He loses favor with his middle school teammates because he forces them to try and match a style he wants. Kageyama fails as a leader in middle school because he ties the idea of success to speed. Throughout the story, Kageyama becomes a monster on the court because Hinata and others force him to see the flaws in his elevated style of play, showing how powerful it can be to trust in your teammates. Kageyama's journey is essentially learning that his teammates can be effective in different ways than he assumes. Positionally, the middle blockers explore this theme most directly because, my god, do they all bring such varied skill sets. The battle between Tendo and Suki highlights it perfectly. Tendo and his guess blocking strategy conflicts with Suki's adherence to read blocking. Both of their approaches work positively for them, and we don't question why they play the way they do. This takes us to the various coaching philosophies of each team. Coaches should empower players to find the extent of their talent, but just as often they will fall into narrow views on how a team should function. Most of the coaches in Haikyuu have a greater vision than that, but the team's philosophies still dictate the way in which players approach the game, and it can have the chance to limit or expand their potential. Washi-Jo would likely be the example of the coach who fits into this negatively, but he shows an awareness that I really appreciate. In the match against Shiratorizawa, he mentioned how Kageyama wouldn't have found this level of skill playing for his team, that he needed a philosophy that matched his skill set. I think this is a really important sentiment when we think about fit and situation. No one person can embody every single philosophy, so we should be seeking out situations that match our skill set and the things we know we are good at. When we consider all of these players and coaches' relationships with this idea, one thing becomes clear. Those who fit into a type of mold of what each position should look like are allowed to play to an extent in a way that suits their skill set, even if it doesn't match what the position normally provides. So why don't we give the same leeway to shorter players? Hinata is expected to play one type of way, with polished technique that will make up for his lack of height and strength. Hinata himself narrows that style because he wants to be the ace, and to be the ace, you must play a certain way. Crushing the ball past your opponents is how you fulfill that role. Even though Hinata never shows true flashes of playing that style, he and the reader still believe he may one day become an ace. This theme rings so true to how we view ourselves and art in general. We have specific expectations for who we should be or what success should look like, but those expectations usually come in with an unfair bias that is put on us by societal norms and pressures. Society wants us to act in similar ways, seeking similar definitions of success that are extremely difficult to achieve and don't fit our unique personalities. For Adate is a master at embedding ideas into his narrative long before we get the full payoff for them, and this theme is no different. From the first chapter, we understood that Hinata was going to play on a different axis than the other players on the court. Even so, our bias gets used against us, as we would love for Hinata to play just like a typical ace, despite his height. But we should never be looking to define people in a singular way, instead hoping to see those people grow into something we've never seen before. The match against Kamomedai is the ultimate conclusion to this idea, as we finally get a worthy rival for Hinata and Hoshiumi. It feels like there's only enough space for one of the two to exist on the court at the same time, but again, that is our bias playing tricks on us. The only players who belong on the court are those who can help their team score more points than the opponent. For Hoshiumi, that's by tooling blockers, hitting high pressure serves, and filling in the glue for a team that adheres to ultimate discipline. For Hinata, it's about chaos, allowing his team to take any challenge head on by using all of the court and drawing attention to himself. Hinata shows that he can stand alongside the best players in the country, playing his style. The success of one person does not hinder that of another. No matter what you can do, you can find your own path to success. We should encourage ourselves and others to try and meet our internal biases that have been applied by society, and instead look for unique ways that fit who we are. We shouldn't define greatness by what others have achieved, but in finding new depths to ourselves. Oikawa's brilliance doesn't get limited by the existence of Kageyama and Atsumu. Same for Bokudo with Ushijima and Sakusa. All of them hone their unique skills to become great, just like Hinata and Hoshiumi. For no matter what situation you find yourself in, never forget, you aren't limited to one way of being great. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I want to give a massive shout out to all my patrons and YouTube members. They help this channel in a huge way. I produce all of the videos on the channel, from scripting to editing, by myself. So the support of those through Patreon and YouTube membership really goes a long way in helping my ability to make more videos. If you're interested, patrons and YouTube members get access to my channel's Discord server, where I host monthly anime watch-alongs. They get their name at the end of every video and access to exclusive Patreon posts. Thanks again for watching the video, and I hope to see you in the next one.